My name is Elias Monroe. I was 28 when the accident took everything that made life feel alive. My wife, Claire. My little girl, Lydia. 2019. A rain-slick road, twisted metal, and headlines that said, mechanical failure. The words never matched the sound that still claws inside my head. The metallic scream, the instant silence, then my own breathing like a knife in fog. Every Sunday for 3 years, I visited their graves with 2 white roses and a cup of coffee. Same bench, same time, same quiet conversation with 2 names on cold stone. People say grief fades. They lie. It just learns your schedule. Last Sunday started like all the others, until my phone vibrated while I was laying a flower down. Unknown number. But I knew it by heart. Lydia's number. The same one that was buried with her broken phone in the casket. I answered. Silence. Then a voice that shouldn't exist. Daddy, please stop visiting the cemetery. I froze. I couldn't breathe. Every hair on my arm stood like soldiers in a storm. My first thought was madness, the second, cruel prank. But the voice was hers, the tiny tremble she had when she was scared of thunderstorms. That night I didn't sleep. At 2:14 a.m. my phone pinged. 1 photo. No caption. The file name just said Monday. I opened it and my entire chest locked. Lydia, alive, holding that day's newspaper. Eyes red, cheeks dirty but breathing. A message followed. The accident wasn't an accident. The company that owned the car made it disappear. The screen dimmed. Power cut out. And for the first time since 2019, I felt something stronger than grief, rage. The moment that photo hit my screen, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I stared until the battery died, as if looking longer would change what I saw. Lydia. My little girl. A day-old newspaper in her hand. The same dimple near her lip, the same scar above her eyebrow from the tree swing. There was no mistaking it. By morning I charged the phone and opened the image again. Metadata gone. No sender ID. The number that called me, already disconnected. Every trace wiped clean like someone knew what they were doing. I went to the police. They looked at me the way people look at ghosts, politely pretending not to pity you. Sir, the officer said, sliding the file closed, 3 years have passed. Whoever's doing this is sick. Sick. That word echoed like a taunt. I left the station and drove straight to the crash site, a cracked stretch of road near Ridge Valley. The guardrail was still bent, flowers long dead, tire marks faded. But something new caught my eye, a small metal tag embedded in the ground. It had numbers, EV 2021/R2, polished, untouched by weather. When I ran my fingers over it, a car stopped behind me. Black sedan. Windows tinted. The driver never got out. Just idled there, engine humming like a held breath. I took a step toward it, and it sped off, leaving only dust and a faint smell of burning rubber. That night, I couldn't stand being inside my house. Every picture frame felt like a lie. I went to my garage, pulled open the cabinet where I'd kept their things, Claire's scarf, Lydia's shoes, the accident report. At the bottom was a document I didn't remember seeing before, property of Ethel Motors, internal safety analysis. The logo matched the one from the dealership brochure we'd signed the week before the crash. My pulse went still. The company didn't just make the car. They made the story that buried them. I spent the entire night reading that document under a flickering bulb. Most pages were redacted, lines blacked out like censored secrets. But one paragraph slipped through. It mentioned a pilot batch of autonomous software under field testing, malfunction results unrecoverable. My wife's car had the same VIN code listed in the margin. The paper trembled in my hands. My wife's car wasn't some random family sedan. It was a prototype. They hadn't told us that when we bought it. We were guinea pigs wrapped in seatbelts. At dawn, I drove to the Ethel Motors headquarters, a glass fortress outside the city. Security guards blocked the entrance before I even stepped on the stairs. Sir, appointments only. Their smiles were professional, hollow. Behind them, the company logo glowed silver, a reflection of everything that felt untouchable. I just need to speak to someone about a crash report, I said, holding the document. They scanned it with their eyes, and their smiles faltered. One whispered into his earpiece. Seconds later, a man in a tailored gray suit appeared. Mr. Monroe, he said smoothly, we're sorry for your loss but you're trespassing. My name. He knew it before I told him. How? I asked. He tilted his head. Because you've been sending emails to every department for years. We monitor persistence. It's admirable. I took a step closer. Then tell me why my daughter's alive. His face didn't move. Not one muscle. That's impossible. Then he turned and walked back inside, escorted by two men who didn't look like security. That night another message arrived. A video. Lydia again, sitting in a dim room whispering, "They're watching. Don't come here." Then static. Then a flash of something in the background, a wall logo. I froze the frame, enhanced it, and there it was again, the silver Ethel Motors symbol. My daughter was inside their building. For the first time in years I smiled. Not from hope. From purpose. I didn't sleep that night. The sound of Lydia's whisper looped in my head, like static caught between stations. "They're watching. Don't come here." I printed the video frame and studied every corner, the flickering fluorescent light, the metallic wall panel, the reflection of a door sign that read Section R. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew where I'd seen that label before, in the same internal report from Ethel Motors. Section R, Restricted, AI Vehicle Safety Lab. By sunrise I'd made up my mind. If they could fake deaths, wipe records and hold my daughter, then I'd stop playing the grieving father. I'd become the problem they couldn't erase. I went to my old friend, Nate, a former mechanic who used to work for Ethel's logistics department. When I showed him the document, his face drained of color. "Elias, this is above my pay grade," he muttered. "Section R isn't a lab. It's a vault. Vehicles that malfunctioned, they're stored underground. Nobody gets in." "What about people?" I asked. He hesitated. "Sometimes, test subjects. Contracted under NDAs. Families are told they died in accidents." I never believed it until... He stopped himself, shaking his head. He agreed to help me bypass the outer checkpoint. "You didn't hear this from me," he said, scribbling a code on the back of an oil receipt. "Use this between midnight and 2 a.m. cameras reboot then." That night, I parked a block away from Ethel Motors and watched their mirrored building pulse under moonlight. Every floor was sealed in perfection, but perfection hides rot best. I walked through the employee gate using Nate's code. Doors clicked open, lights hummed low. The air smelled like new paint and deception. At the elevator, the keypad demanded another code. I took out the paper. My hands were steady for the first time in years. When the doors slid open, cold air rushed up, a sterile underground corridor, lit by blue LED strips. At the far end, a steel door labeled R02. And behind it, I swore I heard a child's voice. The corridor was silent except for the hum of the vents. My reflection trembled across the polished floor, a ghost in motion. I pressed my ear against the steel door marked R02. Nothing. Then, faintly, the sound of breathing. Small. Uneven. My hand hovered over the keypad. 5 digits. I tried the code Nate gave me, denial beep. I tried it backward, same result. I was about to give up when I noticed a fingerprint smudge across the 2 and 7. A pattern. I pressed them alternately. The lock released with a hiss and the door slid open like an exhale. Inside was a white room divided by glass walls. Machines lined the perimeter, each humming softly under fluorescent light. In the center sat a row of hospital beds. And on the third one, Lydia. Her hair was shorter, her face thinner, but it was her. She had monitors attached to her wrist and a thin patch over her temple. When her eyes fluttered open, they found mine instantly, as if she'd been waiting years for that second. "Daddy?" My knees nearly gave out. I reached the glass, pounding until my fists burned. "Lydia. It's me." An alarm shrieked. Red lights flashed. Doors sealed automatically. From behind me, footsteps thundered. 2 men in lab coats and black gloves rushed in. One shouted into his radio, "Section breach. Subject awake." They hit a control pad and thick white gas filled the glass chamber where Lydia was lying. She coughed, reached toward me, and the room blurred. I slammed my shoulder into the glass. Nothing. One of the men looked at me. "You shouldn't be here." Before I could reply, something in me snapped. I grabbed the nearest fire extinguisher and hurled it at the wall alarm. Sprinklers erupted, water pouring from the ceiling, shorting the lights. In the chaos, I snatched the man's access card. When the lights flickered back, Lydia's bed was gone. The chamber, empty. And on the wall where she'd been, someone had written with their fingertip in condensation. "Find Section R1." I stood frozen, water dripping from my hair onto the white tiles. The words on the glass, "Find Section R1," were already fading as the mist cleared, like a message that was never meant to last. I turned the stolen access card over in my hand. It was slick, heavy, metallic. When I tapped it against the elevator panel, the light blinked red twice, then green. A hidden option appeared on the screen, R1/Executive Research. The elevator descended slower this time, groaning like it carried a secret too heavy for its cables. When the doors opened, the air was colder, denser, almost chemical. A low hum vibrated through the floor. Rows of glass pods lined the walls, each holding something that made my throat tighten. Cars identical to my wife's, suspended above a steel basin, wires crawling from their frames like veins. Every windshield showed a small heart rate monitor in the corner. I stepped closer. Inside one pod, a woman stirred. Blonde hair. Familiar jawline. My heart stopped. Claire. My wife. She opened her eyes slowly, confusion swimming inside them. I pressed my palm to the glass. Claire, it's me. Her lips moved soundlessly. Then her head tilted toward a console behind her, a screen displaying test subject 04, memory restoration pending. A voice echoed through hidden speakers. Male, calm, surgical. Mr. Monroe, please step away. You've interrupted a delicate process. I spun around. The man from the lobby, the one in the gray suit, was watching from a control deck above. Your family was never gone, he continued. They were selected. Ethel Motors develops cognitive interfaces for automated safety. We needed live subjects, memory continuity, emotional response. My voice cracked. You used them? He smiled. We preserved them. You're welcome. I looked back at Claire, her eyes filled with tears that wouldn't fall. Behind her, another pod flickered, Lydia's silhouette barely moving. Something inside me steadied. Grief turned to purpose. You're going to open those pods, I said. The man's smile vanished. Or what? The answer came easy. Or I'll make your company disappear too. The man didn't flinch. He just pressed a button on the console and alarms screamed through the entire floor. Red strobes painted the walls as mechanical shutters began sealing each pod. Claire's face vanished behind steel. Lydia's too. Security's on their way, he said calmly. You won't even remember this by morning. But he didn't know I'd been living in a cage of memory for 6 years. I wasn't going to forget, I was going to expose. I ran to the nearest terminal, swiped the access card, and the monitor lit up with strings of encrypted data. Project Rebirth/Neural Transfer Division. There were hundreds of folders, dates, names, VIN numbers, payment receipts to shell corporations. At the top, authorized signature, Victor H. Cray. The man staring at me now. Shut it down, he barked at his staff, but I was faster. I jammed the fire extinguisher handle between the console and wall, crushing the emergency port. Sparks erupted. Systems glitched. Doors opened halfway. Claire's pod hissed. She gasped, coughing water as the glass lifted. I reached her before she collapsed. Where's Lydia? I asked. Her voice was paper thin. They took her to a media lab. For observation. Before I could move, Victor's voice thundered through the intercom. Mr. Monroe, she's no longer your daughter. She's property now, synthetic cognition perfected. You're talking to a prototype. My chest tightened. Say that again. She died 3 years ago. What you saw was memory architecture. An echo. Ethel Motors doesn't build cars anymore, we build immortality. I looked at Claire, her pulse was weak but her tears were real. No machine could fake that. I turned toward the nearest camera. Then let's make your immortality famous. I pulled my phone from my pocket. Every second of this chaos was being live-streamed. Victor froze, realization dawning. You fool, do you know what you've done? Yes, I said, walking toward the blinking red light of the main server. I just started your crash test. Sirens wailed like morning bells as I reached the main server core. Water from the sprinklers dripped into the circuits, each drop sparking blue against the steel floor. Claire clung to me, her breath shallow but steady. Somewhere above, Victor's voice fractured through the speakers. Furious now, desperate. Do you realize what this means, Monroe? You'll destroy decades of work. Good, I muttered, ripping a cable from the terminal. Some things deserve to die. He tried to override the lockdown from his console, but my live stream was still running, thousands of viewers now flooding the chat. Screens across the lab flashed notifications. #Ethel cover-up, #human experiments. The world was finally watching. Claire's hand found mine. Elias, save her, she whispered. I scanned the display, subject 05. Lydia Monroe in neural sync 97%. Just one command away from being overwritten. I typed in the access code from Nate's receipt, the same code that had haunted me for weeks. The progress bar froze, blinked, then reversed. Monitors flickered as Lydia's pod hissed open. She stumbled out, confused, trembling. When her eyes met mine, the world stilled. Daddy? I caught her in my arms, and for a second the lab, the noise, the grief, all dissolved into a single heartbeat. Behind us, Victor's control deck exploded in sparks. The backup generators failed and the emergency lights dimmed to red embers. He stumbled out of the smoke, face twisted in disbelief. "You've doomed them both. They'll never survive outside the system." I met his eyes. "They already survived you." We left him there, surrounded by his dying machines and the sound of his empire unraveling. 3 days later, Ethel Motors was headline news. Their files leaked, their investors vanished, and the government sealed every facility. Lydia sleeps beside Claire every night now, still recovering, still remembering. The doctors call it a miracle. I call it justice. Every Sunday I still bring 2 white roses to the cemetery, but now we stand together, 3 shadows under one sky. And every time the wind moves through the trees, I swear I hear her voice again. "Daddy, it's over."